Fender guitar, national security, and Connecticut are all on this day. Welcome back to On This Day. Today's date is August 10th, 2022. It is the 222nd day of the year. We got 143 days left in 2022. It is the 32nd Wednesday in the 33rd week and the 51st day of summer. You're still a Leo. Today is National Connecticut Day. Woven into the fabric of the state's historic landscape, we find revolutionaries, innovators, and philosophers. On August 10th, National Connecticut Day recognizes the contributions of the fifth state to join the United States of America. Easily, Connecticut's one of the most historic states we have. The battles that happened there during the Revolutionary War, all the people that came from Massachusetts, and especially the Boston area. But like other colonies in the region, the Dutch first explored and founded trading posts in Connecticut. In 1633, Puritans from Massachusetts established the first permanent settlement. Connecticut was big in the production of brass buttons back in the day, and then when the Revolutionary War came around, they kind of transferred over to munitions and became a serious supplier of life-ending projectiles. Basically, they were using ball and buckshot. This was prior to bullets. Bullets really didn't come around until the mid-1800s. Bullets were actually invented the 1830s, but it wasn't until about 1845, 1847 that they were widely used. The Colonel Governor of Connecticut, Jonathan Trumbull, was the only governor to support independence. All three Connecticut delegates to the First Continental Congress continued their representation of the colony at the Second Congress and signed the Declaration of Independence. In fact, Roger Sherman is the only person to have signed the Continental Association, the Declaration of Independence, the Articles of Confederation, and the United States Constitution. Now, obviously, back in the day, not everyone was on board of becoming an independent country. A lot of people wanted to stay with the crown, not just Benedict Arnold. Silas Deane served as a spy during the war and was for a time branded a traitor along with another Connecticut native, Benedict Arnold. Benedict Arnold, by the way, died as one of the most hated men and penniless. He was a colonel and he was a fairly wealthy man here in the United States, and after the Revolutionary War, he fled to Canada, where he became a tax collector and landlord, and he was kind of a jerk about it from all reports. I didn't know the dude. And so people hated him there too, and he eventually made his way to England because he was hated in Canada. Decades later, in 1840, his granddaughter would petition Congress to review his records. His name would be cleared. At least that's technical. Most people believe Benedict Arnold was a traitor. 1949, the amendment to the National Security Act of 1947 enhances the authority of the United States Secretary of Defense over the Army, Navy, and Air Force and replaces the national military establishment with the Department of Defense. 1961, the Vietnam War. The U.S. Army begins Operation Ranch Hand, spraying an estimated 20 million U.S. gallons of defoliants and herbicides over rural areas of South Vietnam in an attempt to deprive the Viet Cong of food and vegetation cover. That was one of the biggest problems with the United States in Vietnam. The Vietnamese, they just knew the land way better than we did, especially in the beginning, and they used it against us, and their ability to camouflage in the jungle was incredible. True story, I've talked about it before, the unit I was in the Army, the 7th Infantry Division, Light, in the 1980s, they were kind of brought around because of lessons we learned in Vietnam. Camouflage and learning about camouflage and practicing camouflage was a big thing for the 7th Infantry Division back then. There was a couple other divisions that were doing the same thing, like the 25th Division in Hawaii. They had one up in Alaska, which obviously they weren't training for jungle, they were training for winter camouflage and things like that. Or as we used to call ourselves, combat ninjas. 1988, Japanese-American internment. U.S. President Ronald Reagan signs the Civil Liberties Act of 1988, providing $20,000 payments to Japanese Americans who were either interned in or relocated by the United States during World War II. You know, things get crazy during wartime, especially back then. There's so many spies, and I understand the thinking behind it, but the fact that they actually did it is just a sad day for the United States. It's not like these Japanese people had just shown up here a couple weeks prior. We're talking generations of Japanese Americans living in this country were basically upended by the United States and said, sorry, you got to go to a camp till we figure this out. A girl when I was in college did a speech on the internment caps and stuff like that. She was Japanese. And she put one thing forward, I'm not going to get all into it, but that she thought it would have been a better idea, knowing the situation and how things were. And precautions did have to be made, but wouldn't it have been better to do like a parole agent does, just show up your house anytime you want to make sure things are going on right and make sure you're not doing anything weird and leave people in their homes so they don't lose their businesses and things like that. Sure, it would have been a major inconvenience, but instead of life-changing, it would have just been, a few years of a pain in the butt. I wish I, could remember all of her speech. It was very well done. 2018, Horizon Air employee Richard Russell hijacks and performs an unauthorized takeoff of Horizon Air Bombardier Dash 8 Q400 plane at the Seattle-Tacoma International Airport in Washington, flying it for more than an hour before crashing the plane into the sparsely populated Ketron Island right off the shores of Tacoma, Washington, in the Puget Sound. Now, he flew this plane around the Seattle area and the Puget Sound, Tacoma, whatever, for over an hour doing barrel rolls, flips, all kinds of fun stuff. He talked to the air traffic controller, said that he wanted to apologize to all the people that care about him, and he said he's just a confused guy with a few screws loose. That's what he actually told them, and he said, I really didn't know it till now, and he just wanted to apologize. He was a 29-year-old man that worked for Horizon Air for about 3 years. In case you don't know, he didn't survive the crash on the island. 2020, a derecho in Iowa becomes the most costly thunderstorm disaster in U.S. history. I talked about this not too long ago about derecho, and they're pretty serious thunderstorms. Wind kicks up like hurricane levels. They could do some damage. And the reason they do so much damage is they're not like a tornado that's, let's say, a tornado might affect a 10-mile area in just a strip of it, right? Derecho covers like half a state. It's not as powerful as the tornado, but it does more widespread damage. Overall. Movies released on August 10th, 2022. I've already talked about Red Dawn was released on this day in last year's video, and I've talked about some other movies, so we're down to American Pie 2. The reason I bring this one up, American Pie was like the perfect teenage comedy. It was great. Probably one of the best teen comedy movies since the days of Breakfast Club, Ferris Bueller, Pretty in Pink, those things. This one comes out, it was hysterical, it was great. The first one came out in 1999, this one was 2001, American Pie 2, and they should have left well enough alone. I mean, this one was okay, but it just wasn't near what the other one was, but since the other one made some money, they got to make a second one. Anyway, 5 friends from the original American Pie reunite during summer after their first year of college. And if you want to feel old, all those teenagers that were in that movie, most of them are in their mid-40s to early 50s right now. Great soundtrack though. It had Blink-182, Green Day, Three Doors Down, and several other 90s popular bands. Born on August 10th, 1909, Leo Fender, creator of the famous Fender brand of guitars. He also created The Music Man and GL Musical Instruments Company. Before fame, he made money repairing radios as a teenager in California. He was awarded a Technical Grammy Award in 2009 for his contributions of outstanding technical significance to the recording field. He and Les Paul are probably two of the biggest names in electrical instruments. Died on August 10th. 2021, we lost Tony Esposito, Hockey Hall of Fame goaltender who won the Stanley Cup championship in 1969 and then became a staple of all-star teams for 5 straight years. Before fame, he and his brother Phil were obsessed with hockey and practiced every chance they could. Phil was probably a little more known than Tony Esposito, but that's that. And side note, his brother Phil was also inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame. Phil is still alive, 80 years old, living in Florida. All right, that's today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you got some information out of it. Now go out, have a productive day, and be nice to each other.